It never ceases to amaze me that although we've got almost 40 writers of prophecy spread out over 1,500 years, they never contradict each other. 40 writers, one author. 1,000 plots, one story. God is not making this up as it goes along. It has all been determined from the beginning. Hannah, the mother of Israel's first titled prophet, Samuel, declared,
"He will guard the feet of his saints, but the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength no man shall prevail. The adversaries of Yahweh shall be broken in pieces. From heaven he will thunder against them. Yahweh will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed." 1 Samuel 2, 9 and 10.
She said this before Israel even had a king, you understand. She was speaking of the coming Messiah. I guess Samuel's prophetic gifts ran in the family. The prophetic plan of God is scattered throughout the Bible. We looked at the beginning of this song earlier in this chapter. The sons of Korah continue their song of praise.
"There is a river whose streams shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High."
This is a real river, one that doesn't exist yet. We'll revisit it a few chapters hence.
God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her just at the break of dawn. The nations raged. The kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice. The earth melted. Yahweh Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah.
Now we know what time of day Yahshua intends to move against the Antichrist forces. Again, we see God's voice as his weapon of choice. Yahweh is the creator, but as any contractor will tell you, construction often involves demolition as well.
"Come, behold the works of Yahweh, who made the desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot in the fire."
World War I was called the War to End All Wars. We all know how erroneous that moniker turned out to be. Yahweh is the only one who can end war, for he is the only one who can change men's hearts. It is pointless for well-meaning people to try to alter the behavior of others, to make them more peaceable. Peace on earth comes through the Prince of Peace alone.
"Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Yahweh Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah." Psalm 46, 4-11.
At the risk of sticking the spurs to a horse that's already running at full speed, notice that the nations will exalt the God of Jacob. Judaism and Christianity have no business being separate religions. There is only one God. His name is Yahweh. The God of the Jews is the only one there is, which is not to say they know him yet. And God with us, Emmanuel, is the title borne by Yahshua. While we're in the Psalms, let's look at a couple from David, whom Yahweh often used to speak in the voice of the Messiah, Dave's descendant and Savior.
"I have pursued my enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn back again till they were destroyed. I have wounded them so that they could not rise. They have fallen under my feet."
Yes, squashed like grapes, according to John.
"For you have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued me under those who rose up against me."
Virtually the whole world.
"You have also given me the necks of my enemies, so that I destroyed those who hated me. They cried out, but there was none to save, even to Yahweh, but he did not answer them."
Here's a sobering thought. Once you've made your final choice to serve Satan, once you've received his evil spirit, repentance, even crying out to Yahweh himself, will not help you. You're beyond salvation at this point.
"Then I beat them as fine as the dust before the wind. I cast them out like dirt in the streets. You have delivered me from the strivings of the people. You have made me the head of the nations. A people I have not known shall serve me. As soon as they hear of me, they obey me. The foreigners submit to me. The foreigners fade away and come frightened from their hideouts.
After Armageddon, there will be no question as to who is in charge. As the news spreads, the terrified survivors of the tribulation will emerge from their hiding places and pinch themselves to make sure they're not dreaming, to convince themselves that the nightmare is really over. There are no more thoughts of rebellion. Whether happy about the outcome or not, those alive after Armageddon will know who the king is and will bow to his rule. David continues,
Yahweh lives. Blessed be my rock. Let the God of my salvation be exalted.
Then, speaking again of the Messiah,
It is God who avenges me and subdues the peoples under me. He delivers me from my enemies. You also lift me up above those who rise against me. You have delivered me from the violent man. Therefore I will give thanks to you, O Yahweh, among the Gentiles, and sing praises to your name. Great deliverance he gives to his king, and shows mercy to his anointed, to David and his descendants forevermore. Psalm 18:37-50.
Here we see the concept of vengeance again, executed by Yahweh against those who have rejected his anointed, Yahshua, the son of David. In a similar vein, David speaks for his nation.
We will rejoice in your salvation, and in the name of our God we will set up our banners.
The name of our God? David just told us that name. Did you catch it? No, of course not. This is one of the 77 times in the Old Covenant Scriptures that the actual name of the Messiah is revealed and then mistranslated. Salvation is the Hebrew word Yahushua, phonetically indistinguishable from Yahshua. If you knew him only as Jesus, you'd miss the entire point. Yahweh is salvation.
May Yahweh fulfill all your petitions. Now I know that Yahweh saves his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with the saving strength of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of Yahweh our God.
Seeing Yahshua's great and final victory achieved without any man-made weaponry at all, the tribulation Jews will finally understand the power of their God over their enemies.
They have bowed down and fallen, but we have risen and stand upright. Save, O Yahweh, may the King answer us when we call. Psalm 20, 5-9.
Patriarchs and prophets alike have foreseen Yahweh's plan unfolding. Admittedly, Jacob's view as he blessed his children on his deathbed was so fuzzy he couldn't have known what he was saying, but Yahweh did. Speaking of Judah, but in reality prophesying of the Messiah who would be his direct descendant, Jacob, Israel, said
of the people, binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine.
Clearly a reference to Yahshua's first-century advent.
He washes his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Genesis 49:11-12.
As the Old Covenant morphed into the New, the story didn't change. The aging Simeon encountered Mary, Joseph, and their newborn child in the temple, and he knew he'd found someone special.
He, Simeon, took him, the infant Yahshua, up in his arms and blessed God and said, Lord, now you are letting your servant depart in peace, according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared before the face of all peoples, a light to bring revelation to the Gentiles, and the glory of your people Israel. Luke 2:28-32.
Israel, in case you haven't noticed, hasn't had much glory in the past 2,000 years since Yahshua walked its streets. But all of that is about to change. We haven't heard from Daniel lately. Does he have anything to say about these portentous times? Would I be asking the question if he didn't? You've got to admit, sometimes it's hard to tell if you're reading from Revelation or from Daniel. The tone, not to mention the content, is so similar. Daniel reports,
I watched till thrones
that's plural, they're for the judges, probably John's 24 elders,
were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels of burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him.
The prophet is witnessing the Messiah in his glory, the same Yahshua who would walk the earth as a simple Jewish carpenter hundreds of years later, after temporarily laying down the trappings of divinity. The love of a God who would do that to rescue you and me is truly stunning.
1,000 thousands,
Angels, I presume,
ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him.
The normal couplet structure of Hebrew poetry suggests that this may refer to the same group of ministering angels, but I can't help but wonder if this second designation speaks instead of the myriads of souls, 100 million of them, who were slain for their faith by the Antichrist. After all, look at what happens next.
The court was seated, and the books were opened. I watched then because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn,
that's the Antichrist, if you'll recall the imagery Daniel used,
was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain, and its body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Daniel 7, 9-11.
It's as if the angels are the bailiffs in Yahshua's court, and there are 10,000 times 10,000 witnesses present to plead with God for justice to be done. There's not a lawyer in sight. This beast, in context, is not the same as John's beast from the sea, that is, the Antichrist, but rather the fourth Gentile kingdom, the one called Dreadful and Terrible, described earlier in this vision. But if you'll recall, it is a resurrection of the Roman Empire, either in geography or in spirit or both. But yes, the Antichrist leads it. Daniel restates the fact of Neo-Rome's demise a few verses later.
But the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his, Antichrist's, dominion, to consume and destroy it forever. Daniel 7:26.
Years after Daniel saw this vision, he received another that covered much of the same territory. Here we see a quick synopsis of the Antichrist's career.
Through his cunning he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule, and he shall exalt himself in his heart. He shall destroy many in their prosperity. He shall even rise against the Prince of Princes,
Introduced by John as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Yahshua.
but he shall be broken without human means. Daniel 8:25.
No human army, not even the Israelis, are able to stop him. The Messiah alone is up to the task.